For those of you who watch Sosolinha, because I know Pan-Africanists could try to attack, but we have to be more careful with our scholarship, because the mistakes that are being made, this is the kind of thing that can be exploited by the Pan-Africanists and should be. It's your brother, your cousin, your nephew, young Unehiya, reporting live on behalf of the master of breath, Isaac and Messi. I'm only getting on here real briefly, just to make a little correction to something that was said by one of our brothers. For those of you who watch Sosolinha, the brother is doing his thing. His channel is excellent, and he's dropping a lot of nuggets that we need, and he produces a lot of receipts. So I'm extremely grateful, as I'm sure many of you are, for the content that he produces for us. But I did want to correct something. He just did a video a day ago, and I wanted to kind of correct something that I think is a kind of a fatal mistake that a lot of our people are making. Especially when you're trying to make sure that you don't leave yourself vulnerable to what the Pan-Africanists have to say in rebuttal to your content. Sometimes if you say the wrong thing, you can create a window of opportunity for them to refute all of the nuggets that you've put up. And I feel like there's something where he did that, and I would like to kind of you know, point this out and get ahead of it. Get ahead of the Pan-Africanists on this kind of thing, not just because it's not just this one video. It happens with a lot of the content creators in our space. So here's what it is. He was reading a book, and I'm going to show you the book, and I'm going to show you the author as well. I'm going to show you the author. I'm going to show you the book. I'm going to show you the author. And he read an excerpt from this book. It was published in 1910. What he read the excerpt without giving a lot of context for the excerpt. And that's part of the problem too. We have to give the context for what we read before we even bother to read it. So part of why I even bother showing you the author is so that you can see that this is a white man. Part of why I tell you that this is 1910 is because that's some useful context information. It would make a difference if it was written in 2024 by a black man, right? So this was written by a white man in 1910. And I show you his name because I want you to see the Sir honorific in front of his name, so that you know that he is that he was respected for his knowledge by British people. And he's speaking on the nature of the Negro in general in the United States at the time. In the early 1900s, and you know, he's and in the excerpt that was read, because the book is called The Negro in the New World, The Negro in the New World, and in this book and in the excerpt that Sosolinha read, we're seeing a description of somebody, students. We're seeing a description of students somewhere. The way he presents it makes it seem like the people being described are believed by the author to be the indigenous people of this land. And that's not factually accurate. However, I am going to point out, first I'm going to point out why it's not factually accurate and what the discrepancy is with that. However, I am also going to point out after that why Sosolinha was still correct in the ultimate point that he ended up making about what was being written here. Because I know Pan-Africanists could and possibly would come in and try to change what we're looking, try to attack what's being said to make their own broader point about how, oh no, these was Africans. And the problem is you're actually leaving yourself open for them to say that, because they have a valid point to make there because of how you couched it in an improper context. And so we have to fix that, and that's what I'm trying to fix. So I'm going to go in here and show you the book. So the excerpt that he read was very short, and it came from page 396.
The girl students dress their hair very carefully, and untidiness in personal appearance is treated as a misdemeanor, though occasionally it is a little difficult for the Indian girls to keep their long black wisps of hair under proper control. It is surprising, on the other hand, what sleekness and length the negresses can impart to their head covering by the careful and persistent combing and brushing of the kinky tresses.
We understand what the point is of why he's reading it. The idea is, if these are Indians being described that way, right, it gives us a wealth of evidence to demonstrate that, hey, these are Indians, and the Indians are being described in a way that perfectly matches our description. So we feel validated by that, and we're just like, boom, there we go. It's not as simple as that. So first, let's back up and understand the context. This is written in the 16th chapter of the book. There's a lot of book that we've skipped to get to this. This is in the 16th chapter. The title of that chapter is The Education of the Negro in the United States, Hampton Institute. But in this chapter, the author is making, all along the way, clear distinctions between the Amerindian and the Aframerican, which is another term he uses at a couple points. He uses the term Aframerican a couple times, and he uses the term Amerindian a couple times. And so the author does not believe that the two are one and the same. The author does believe there are Africans on this soil. Check this out. Check this out. Listen to this. I'm reading from an earlier page. I'm reading from an earlier page in the book, just to give further context and to show you what I mean. It says, to some extent also, arts of design in addition to architecture are encouraged and stimulated. The Amerindians in this respect at Hampton outvie the Negroes. You see that? The Amerindians in this respect at Hampton outvie the Negroes. How? If the Amerindians are the Negroes, then what are you talking about? The word Negroes here is being used to refer to someone who's apparently not indigenous. So he's saying the Amerindians in this respect at Hampton outvie the Negroes. Their basket work and mat making are exquisite, and some of them have executed remarkable specimens of wood carving. The Amerindian is going to surprise the world yet by some genius in the plastic or pictorial arts before he becomes finally fused into the great American nation. The Negro, however, takes the lead in music. You seeing that? Oh, again, there's a binary opposition being established between these two groups. He's clearly talking about two different groups. Indeed, one dimly perceives a musical solution of the Negro culture problem, a possibility that in music, the Aframerican, perhaps even the Negro of Africa, may achieve triumphs not yet attained by the white men. You seeing this? Aframerican. So Amerindian and Aframerican are two terms used by this author in this book in the same chapter because of a distinction being made between the two groups. This is a British author, white man, who fully believes that there are Negroes here from Africa. Now, what I'm gonna show you is there's still more to see here. Yes, there is a problem with what Sosolinha read to make it seem as if the Indians, the Indian girls and the negresses are the same people, which is not necessarily the case. You can debate it, but syntactically, the syntax of those sentences that he read allows for two interpretations. Either one, the Indian girls are subsequently being called negresses, or two, a comparison is being made between Indian girls and other black girls. And if it's the latter, then that means that we can't use this as evidence that the Indians were black. I'm not trying to come against old boy. I'm not. I'm really not. That's why I made sure to let you know up front. I watch Sosolinha's channel all the time, and I feel like he pulls out a lot of excellent content. Just so you understand a little bit about me, I'm a Creek Indian, all right? On my mother's side and my father's side. I've explained in previous videos, my great-grandmother grew up for part of her childhood on the res. My family passed down land for a couple of generations, a few generations, that they attained because of being Indigenous, as a matter of fact. I'm not denying the indigeneity of many members of the black community here in the United States. I'm part of that. But we have to be more careful with our scholarship, because the mistakes that are being made, this is the kind of thing that can be exploited by the Pan-Africanists, and should be, because if you don't do your due diligence on that thing, or if you make a mistake, just making a mistake, that's all it can be. If you make a mistake, that's all they live for. All they do, they spend all their time trying to hunt you down for any slight mistake you might have made, any window or door you might have left open or cracked, so that they can exploit it and make it seem as though you just hate being black. But I do want to show you one other thing, because even in spite of all of this, Sosolinha is not wrong. Sosolinha is not wrong. But we should read further beyond the excerpt that he read in this same chapter to understand how the author then does confirm something for us. The excerpt that he read came from page 396. Let me show you the very next page. I'm gonna show you the very next page, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the end of the chapter. Page 397, reading from the very top. Look at what it says. It is surprising to note amongst these Negro children and students at Hampton, as at Tuskegee, the extraordinary prevalence with dark eyes and a dark skin of red, blonde, or golden hair. What he's saying is, it's remarkable how even among these Negro children, there's actually a lot of people, even though they still have dark eyes and dark skin, there's actually a lot of them that have red hair and blonde hair or golden hair, and he's finding that remarkable, which I would too. There are even examples of blue-eyed, fair-haired Negroids retaining as the only trace of their African blood the undulating curl in the hair and the pale olive complexion. Don't get thrown off by when he says African. He's about to make a turn. Just keep watching. Just listen to what he's saying. Don't try to change it and make it seem like he's just mistaken. He's calling them African, but they really Indian. No, take him at his word. Just wait a second. Just wait a second. Keep going. Keep reading. Don't stop. Have we here a new race in the making? The features are fine, regular, and beautiful. It is only that terrible murky complexion which ties down this child, this man or woman, to the dark primeval days when the Negro rioted in the wealth of food provided by the Indian or African plains and forests, and hid his talent in a napkin. Now hold on. Are you catching the significance of what he just said? The significance is he described a Negro of the Indian plains and forests and a Negro of the African plains and forests. There are two Negroes. That's the thing you need to catch.
Hey y'all. First of all, like and subscribe to the channel, but also Unehiya is recruiting, and if you don't know what Unehiya is, we're a grassroots activist group lobbying Congress to amend a bill to require education and research to acknowledge the Negro origins of Aboriginal groups of North America. If any of you have it to give, please support the campaign using the QR code on your screen. Join the campaign with a donation, and if you have the time, you can even join our staff to help guide the organization, not just for this campaign, but also future endeavors. Don't speak about it, be about it. Let's go.
There are two Negroes. And a lot of you want to just write off the idea that anyone even came from Africa, and that's short-sighted. There is no blanket answer to any problem this complex. You can't possibly think that it's that simple. That's just as bad as everybody who's over here saying there are no black Indians. Now you're saying that no Africans came here. Surely in the back of your mind, you know the answer would have to be somewhere in the middle, right? Even if you don't have any data points to demonstrate this with, which I do. But even if you didn't have any data points to demonstrate this, you gotta figure there's no way such an absolute statement like either one of those on either side could possibly be true. They concocted this entire story from nothing? For what? What did they gain from that? Why even bother? What was the point? So what I'm saying is, don't get caught up in that. Don't get caught up in that. That's ridiculous. Look at the last paragraph. It says, what incident in his race history relieved the Amerindian of this stigma of an ineradicable skin pigment? Ineradicable. Cannot be eradicated. What took away the stigma? How come, he's asking a question. His question is, how come the Indian seems to be somehow escaping the stigma of dark complexion? And he goes on to answer his own question. He led seemingly a life as feckless as that of the African black man, yet dressed in civilized clothes, he at once sinks naturally into the white community. And when he mingles his blood with that of the white race, his descendants are handsome according to the white ideal, and the olive of his skin is permeated with a rosy blush. So the reason why he was talking earlier about there being Negroes with red hair and blonde hair, Negroes with blue eyes, is now answered here in this final paragraph as well. He's talking about Negroes mixing with white people. Which Negro is mixing with white people? What do you think he's talking about? He's talking about the Amerindians. He explained it. He specifically used the term Amerindian. We already showed on a previous page that if he was referring to the African, he would have said Aframerican, or African. He would have just said African. He even made a distinction from the African black man. So there's two black men, two black women. There is the indigenous black woman, and there is the African black woman. You can't write either one of them off. Y'all are thinking that the so-called Native Americans, who are card-carrying members of the tribal nations on the reservations today, y'all believe that all of them are pretendians, and that they're not real, and that Sosolinha always refers to them as Mongolian. I'm not gonna sit here and say every single one of them is actually carrying indigenous blood, because we know there is a such thing as pretendians. We understand that, we understand what the $5 was, right? But honestly, when you look at a lot of these people, and if you watch a lot of Native Americans in Native American documentaries made by Native Americans, you notice a lot of them have our traits. They have our wide noses, even though they don't have our skin complexion. They have our traits. And the reason for that is because they're mixed. And that accounts for far more of them than this Mongolian theory, okay? There's more to it with the Mongolian thing too. I know that you don't want to believe it, but a lot of us are Mongolians as well. We are Mongolian. What you're referring to as Mongolian, we're Mongolian. And I'm gonna do a video to prove that later. I'm about to do a follow-up video to demonstrate to you guys who we actually are. We come from Asia. We come from Asia. I know you don't believe me. But we're from Asia. We're Mongolian, and I'm gonna show you. They are not more Mongolian than us. You think because of what they look like, they're more Mongolian than us. No, their complexion comes from mixing with white people. And I mean rampantly. That's how the divide came. There became a division of the Indian, and I'm going to explain this in a subsequent video as well. How did it happen? You'll notice the author does acknowledge the Amerindian and the Aframerican as having Negro origins. They're both coming from two different types of Negroes, but one is more rapidly assimilating with whiteness than the other. One is becoming white, and that's how the Native American is produced. The Native American is an identity that is acknowledged as Indian by the federal government and by state governments, and frankly quite superficially so. But yeah, if you're reading that whole chapter, you have ample reason to believe that the author is deliberately making a distinction. That's why you see a turn of phrase here, on the other hand, he says, before addressing the negresses. After talking about these Indian girls. Indian girls, he describes them one way, they do struggle with their hair. On the other hand, these negresses, you see what I'm saying? So you're going to be hard pressed to prove that he's genuinely talking about the same person in both situations. That's going to be a hard sell, because the syntax of the statement does not help you prove that. It kind of works against you. You could be right, but you're not getting it. That's not proof. That's not a good receipt. However, an alternative is to continue reading on to the next page and see that either way, the author does acknowledge that the Indian, that there is a Negro of the Indian plains and Indian forests, and that there's another Negro of the African plain and African forests. And he's describing the Amerindian Negro as someone who's mixing out. Guys, go on my channel. First of all, like and subscribe, but also go on my channel. I'm about to put 2 videos on the screen. You gotta watch them both. Basically what they're about is an initiative that the Unehiya movement is undertaking. The Unehiya Campaign is very important for our people. This is an opportunity for us to get recognition. It's an opportunity for us to get recognition as Indians, all right? And I break down how and why in these 2 videos. We're essentially lobbying Congress. I'm 100% behind it. I'm hoping that you guys will get 100% behind it. We need support. We need monetary support, and we need people to work with Unehiya to do this stuff, all right? We need people to volunteer to be a part of this, because a lot of y'all, I know, don't believe that things like this can be done, but it can. Y'all, you gotta, don't be so conspiratorial with your thinking that you just don't believe Congress can be lobbied to do what the right thing. In several circumstances, we have proven that they've been willing to do it. We've gotten things done before. We can do more. So I'm just trying to get you guys to do that this time. Check out these 2 videos that I'm putting on the screen. Please check out these 2 videos that I'm putting on the screen, because these 2 videos that I'm putting on the screen for my end screen on this video, I need you guys to watch it so that you can get an understanding of what it is Unehiya is actually doing. I've explained it in multiple videos. I'm explaining it over and over. Basically, we're attacking a bill, a Senate bill that has been stalled by the general election, which the general election is working in our favor, and we're not trying to attack the bill to keep it from passing. We want it to pass. We just want to change it before it passes. We want to tack on an amendment to it before it passes, and we have the opportunity to do that as long as we get active this year. We've got to get active during the election, so that we can make this thing happen. Congress always gets extremely lethargic during an election year. That's how they waste your tax dollars on trying to find new ways to get campaign dollars out of you, so that they can focus on getting their seats back. Guys, support the movement. Support the movement, because Unehiya needs your donations in order to get everything together the right way. When you're lobbying Congress, there is a very fastidious process that has to be followed in order for you to be successful, and we don't want to do this in vain. We don't want to half-heartedly do it either. We don't want to put 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Guys, if there's anything worth supporting, I've seen people, I'm not even going to go into that. I've seen people support other channels. I'm not asking you to support the channel. I'm asking you to support a campaign to lobby Congress to change a bill so that you, a person who probably knows you're Indian because you've already proven it genealogically, can be recognized as indigenous. There's data that actually supports you, and that's what they're using. They have hard evidence, they have hard data that can be presented before Senator Tina Smith and can change the outcome of other things, all right? And this does also inform the conversation on reparations as well. We'll talk about more of that in another video. I've talked about it before, but in any case, I'm just letting you guys know this is something that we really should be supporting. This is something that we really should be supporting. I'm hoping that you guys can get behind it. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Peace out. Shaman Unehiya.